Welcome back to the Explainer. I am genuinely thrilled to have you here today because our goal is simple, but it's absolutely crucial. We are going to unlock the massive performance potential of your GPU by finally demystifying its underlying hardware architecture. We're going to strip away all the confusion and build a crystal clear mental model of how your hardware actually thinks and operates. Now, we've all been there, right? Here's a scenario you've probably experienced firsthand. You've got this incredibly expensive, blazing fast GPU. You write some seemingly basic code, you hit run, and suddenly, it's just crawling. No way, right? Why does this happen? Well, the most common beginner trap is treating a GPU like a CPU, but they are completely different beasts. With a GPU, the physical layout of the hardware literally dictates its speed. If you don't understand where your data physically lives on the chip and how it moves, your performance is going to bottleneck for sure. Okay, let's dive into this. Here is our roadmap for today. First, we'll decode GPU memory. Then we'll look at the power of shared memory, how warps actually work together, the very real threat of branch divergence, and finally, how to solve that thread divergence. All right, section 1, decoding GPU memory, the supply chain of the GPU factory. I want you to conceptualize the GPU chip as a massive, hyper-efficient factory. Take a look at this blueprint representing the grid of our factory. Way down at the very bottom, you see global memory. Think of global memory as the massive but very distant warehouse. It's huge, it's accessible by the host CPU and all the threads, but man, it takes a long time to haul data from down there all the way up to the workers. As data travels up the hierarchy into those yellow blocks, it moves into shared memory and registers. These are your local storage bins sitting right next to the workers. Let's zoom in a bit closer to see how this translates to the actual hardware. Notice how the registers and the shared memory labeled SMM right there inside those green boxes, they are physically embedded directly inside the streaming multiprocessors, or SMs. Meanwhile, that massive global memory is sitting way down below the L2 cache. In our factory metaphor, proximity equals speed. Accessing registers or shared memory is blisteringly fast compared to calling down to the L2 cache or all the way to the global memory warehouse. Moving on to section 2, the power of shared memory, bringing data right to the workbench. If there is one critical tool for a beginner to master when optimizing GPU code, it is learning how to manually bring data out of that slow global warehouse and onto the fast local workbench. Let's contrast these two. Over on the left, global memory is accessible by absolutely everything, but it's distant and unoptimized. On the right, we've got shared memory. It's only accessible by the threads inside a specific block. So the crucial point is this: shared memory is a highly programmable software cache. Unlike standard CPU caches that just guess what data you might need, you, the developer, explicitly control exactly what goes onto this high-speed workbench. So, getting strictly to the definition, shared memory is a programmable software cache that allows threads inside the exact same block to communicate and share data with one another at incredibly high speeds. It's really the ultimate collaborative space for workers who are trying to solve the exact same piece of a larger problem. But, there is a trap on this workbench, and you really need to watch out for it. It's called a bank conflict. You see, shared memory is divided into individual banks, and each bank can only handle one request at a time. A bank conflict happens when more than one thread attempts to access the exact same memory bank at the exact same time. When this happens, the hardware literally forces the GPU to serialize the requests, just lining them up, one after another. And that completely destroys your parallel performance. This diagram perfectly visualizes the trap. On the left side, look at all those green threads cramming their access lines into bank 3. That is a brutal bank conflict. It creates a massive traffic jam that completely halts the factory line. Now, look over at the right side. Thread 0 talks to bank 0. Thread 1 talks to bank 1. The accesses are perfectly striped and aligned. This allows multiple threads to grab data simultaneously, keeping the entire factory humming along flawlessly. All right, section 3, how warps work together. Meet the synchronized assembly line workers. Now that we know where the data actually lives, let's talk about how the data is processed by meeting our synchronized workers. In GPU architecture, a warp is a group of threads, typically 32 of them, bundled together into what's called a single instruction, multiple thread, or SIMT instruction. I actually want you to think of a warp kind of like a highly disciplined marching band. All 32 members must step in perfect synchronization to the exact same sheet music. They absolutely must execute the exact same command simultaneously. And this brilliantly illustrates that marching band concept. Look right inside the pink box labeled thread warp. You've got your scalar threads W, X, Y, and Z, but notice how they are all driven by a single common PC, a single program counter. The GPU bundles them up to send them down the SIMD pipeline as one cohesive unit. Doing it this way saves massive amounts of physical space on the chip because the hardware doesn't need to build separate control logic for every single thread. Which brings us to Section 4, the threat of branch divergence, the traffic jam that destroys efficiency. Because actually, this brilliant design introduces a villain into our story. What happens to our perfectly synchronized marching band when your code introduces a simple if-else statement? Well, branch divergence occurs when threads inside the very same warp branch off to different execution paths. Because the GPU uses that single pipeline to save area on a control logic, it physically cannot execute path A and path B at the same time. If some threads need to go down path A and the rest need to go down path B, the hardware is forced to serialize them. Here is the timeline of how that disaster actually unfolds. At the point labeled diverge, our warp hits an if-else condition. The GPU is forced to deactivate half the threads. You can see the active green threads executing instruction A, while the inactive threads just sit there, completely idle. Then they literally take turns. The first group goes idle while the second group wakes up to execute instruction X. Taking turns like this essentially doubles the time it takes to finish the task. To put a hard number on this, if you have a warp width of 16 and an unoptimized branch sends 8 threads down path A and 8 down path B, you are looking at a devastating 50% loss in performance efficiency. Half of your computing power is just sitting there, completely idle, waiting for its turn. No good. Finally, Section 5, solving thread divergence, organizing the factory for maximum throughput. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the good news. Fixing this issue usually isn't about rewriting complex math. It's almost always about reorganizing how you feed data into the factory. Look at how a seemingly harmless data setup destroys performance here. Our thread indices are processing mixed data. Threads 0 to 7 get positive data and take path A. Threads 8 to 15 get negative data and take path B. Since threads 0 through 31 all live in the exact same warp, this single warp is completely splintered. It's forced to serialize, taking turns, and wasting immense amounts of time. Now contrast that nightmare with this ideal scenario. By simply reorganizing or grouping our data before we feed it to the GPU, we achieve perfection. Threads 0 through 31 all have positive data, so warp 0 entirely executes path A. Threads 32 through 63 all have negative data, so warp 1 entirely executes path B. There's literally zero internal divergence. The GPU executes both warps independently and in parallel, hitting that full 100% SIMD utilization. So let's summarize our core strategies for keeping our factory perfectly optimized. First off, always profile to identify where your big branch bottlenecks actually are. For the smaller branches, try utilizing branchless transforms. They're cheap and fast. As we just saw, if your divergence is data-driven, simply reordering your inputs provides massive speedups. And finally, for completely unpredictable or skewed workloads, consider implementing persistent threads. Instead of launching and terminating threads, you just launch a fixed number that constantly pull from a work queue, keeping every single factory line continuously busy. Which brings us to our final thought. Writing insanely fast GPU code isn't magic, guys. It's just about respecting the hardware. By keeping your data close to the workbench in shared memory and keeping your warps marching in perfect synchronization, you unlock the true power of parallel computing. So my challenge to you is this. How will you reorganize your very next algorithm now that you know exactly how the hardware actually thinks? Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I will see you next time.